my name is Klara. This is a tutorial in vocal mixing that I made for the Swedish program Who Can Become a Producer that's organized by Popkollo. It's a Swedish organization for females and non-binaries in music. And I'm going to talk about vocal mixing today. It's a really subjective thing, as everything in music, I guess. But I'm going to show you how I usually do when I mix vocals, and hopefully you'll get some nice tips and tricks on how to do it yourselves. So let's go. Okay, so here's a session in Pro Tools with a vocal mix that I've made on a song. I'm gonna start off by showing you how it sounds, and then I'm gonna break it apart and show you how I created it. So let's have a listen.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too. This is what you'll do. You smile and lean forward. You say yes and you say no. You don't wanna leave too early. Don't make an excuse to go. You just listen at that other table, what they have to say. I've got two eyes for my honey, but my ears are made for gossip.
Okay, so there it goes. The first thing that I usually do is editing. As you can see, I've chopped up the clip quite a lot. And I've also taken all of the breaths, cutted them out and put them on a separate track. So they're here. That's because I want to process them a bit less, I guess, than the rest of the vocal track. And if they're with the vocal track, it gets all of the compression that I have on the vocal, and they get a bit too upfront and too intense. So I usually put them on a separate track and just do some small EQing. Like I take away all of the low information that they have because I don't need that. And I just send them to my lead vocal bus. I also delete all the silence in the vocal because it sounds cleaner, and there's often a lot of clicks and pops in these empty spaces. So I try to just make it really clean and just let the vocal track only contain vocal. Sometimes I also cut out the S's, like I've made here. This is an S. I've cut it out and I've gained it down a bit in volume here. That's because they can get a bit too intense, in my opinion, when I put on compression and distortion and EQ. So this is what I do when I edit, and I try to be really thorough, and it can take a lot of time, but it's important because otherwise it won't sound as clean and smooth as it does. When I've done my editing, I start by adding a Deesser to the track and just pull the threshold so that it has a gain reduction at about 2 to 4 dB. Not a lot, but just a little in the beginning. And then I put on some EQ. With the first EQ that I'm adding, I'm trying to only cut and not boost anything. I like to use this FabFilter digital EQ, which is nice. You can be really thorough and you can add as many bands as you like. I just made a high pass filter here, and then I put down some of the rumbling frequencies around 600 hertz just to make the voice a bit lighter. And then I just found some resonant frequencies that I didn't really like, so I just notched them out a bit. You can see how it sounds without the EQ and with the EQ.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too. This is what you'll do.
It's not a super big difference, but I think the vocal is a bit lighter and a bit smoother. After that, I just put on a really transparent type of compression. I'm using almost the fastest attack and the fastest release. And then I choose this vocal preset here, which is cool. And it sets the ratio automatically, which is also nice. And then I pull down the threshold until the gain reduction is somewhere about -6 or -7 dB. I don't know, I just like to make a kind of general compression in the beginning that just compresses the vocal. It does nothing else. It doesn't really add anything in the character of the sound, but it just compresses the volume so it's a bit more even in the beginning of the chain.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching.
This is bypassed.
All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too.
Yeah, it just compresses the sound. It makes the more lower parts of the vocal a bit higher. So it just makes it a bit more even, which is nice. Then, as a rule, every time I've added a compressor, I always add a deesser after, because the S's are always a bit more intense when compressed. So I just take a deesser, and it's quite lightly setted, but it just makes the S's a bit less intense. And after that, I put on my boosting EQ. I like to add up the presence a bit, around 3K here, and then just the general brightness a bit.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too. This is what you'll do.
It adds some body, I think, here around 200, 300 hertz, and also like really a presence boost. Makes it a bit more upfront, and we can hear all the consonants and the lyrics a bit better. After that, I put on an additional compressor, which is a bit slower and a bit smoother and has a bit more character than the first one that I've added. And I don't let it work too much either, just somewhere around -3, -5 dB gain reduction. It sounds like this.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too. This is what you'll do.
All of these kind of small changes that I make, I like how they kind of add up to the fullness of the vocal. So I like to do like several compressors that doesn't really compress so much, but they compress in different ways. After that, I work a bit with my lead vocal bus. The entire track of the lead vocal goes out directly into the lead vocal bus, which is nice. And in this case, I only have one lead vocal track, but if I have several, like one for the chorus and one for the verse, can be nice to have some of the processing being the same, and some of them you might not want to be the same. So that's why I always have a lead vocal bus. It's a habit. And there's also room for an additional layer of automation for everything. And you can also choose where in your chain you want to do all your sends, for example. These two sends I have put before this processing, which I think is a nice possibility to have. But on my lead vocal bus, I have other EQ here that boosts a bit around 100K and also attenuates at the same time. This is a special thing for this plugin. It makes like a boost, but when I attenuate at the same time, it creates a curve like after 100 hertz and pushes it up a bit. So like you might think that boosting nothing and attenuating nothing would be the same thing as doing it like this, but I actually think I can hear that the sound gets like another quality and another kind of depth when I do it like this. I've also boosted around 4K, just to add up some more presence. And I just think this EQ generally just sounds good. Sometimes I just put it on my chain without doing anything. I just like how it sounds.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue. So you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too.
And then an additional Deesser just here in the end. Like after this compressor, I want another Deesser. Doesn't really do a lot, but like something like this.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for
around 2 dB gain reduction. In the end of the chain, I added a chorus, or like a spreader, and this is a microshift plugin from Soundtoys, and I just mixed it in like a bit. The wet signal sounds like this.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and you're
Makes the track a bit wider, which is nice. It depends on the track that you're having, if it can take all the space in the stereo image, or if you want it to be more narrow. And in this case, I think it's nice that it's a bit wider, but not too much, because I want all the instruments to be allowed to take the space on the sides.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue.
Okay, and the final plugin that I have on my chain is this RVox. It's kind of a compressor slash limiter that I like to have in the end of the chain. I don't know really what it does, but it kind of makes the vocal pop and really puts it in front of the mix. I can show you how it sounds bypassed.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue. So
it really pushes up the details, I think, and really makes the vocal, yeah, like I said, pop. Then we have the sends. I have some buses down here with effects that I almost always use. I have a room reverb. I have a plate reverb that I have EQ'd a bit, filtered it actually, just to make it sound in the mid frequencies. It works for me kind of as a glue, to glue the vocal into the track, and adding up some lower frequencies. And then I have a hall reverb, a longer, bigger reverb that I have EQ'd a bit too. I pull up the brightness a bit and also high passed it, just to make sure no low frequencies are rumbling around in a big reverb. And then in the end, I've also actually added a chorus to it to make it a bit more interesting and a bit more moving in the stereo image. And then I have 2 delay buses. It's 2 slap delays. This is just a studio slap delay with 126 millisecond delay. And what I've done is that I have actually panned the send. So here we have the send from the vocal bus, and I've panned it, as you see, completely to the left. And then I have on the other delay, which I have drowned in a big reverb with 100% wet. I've panned it to the right. No, I haven't, but I will. I like to do this because it kind of creates a room and an atmosphere around the vocal without taking so much space from the actual vocal, so that the delay tails and the reverby delay tails just adds up on the sides. And I think that's nice to combine with other kinds of reverbs, as I've done here. It creates kind of a depth, I guess. I'm going to show you all these effects, how they sound with and without. The room is here.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you...
I kind of don't want to hear it so much. I just want this room to function as a natural way of just putting vocal in a room and making it sound more natural and glued into the mix. And the same with the plate. I just mix it in quite a little so that we don't hear it.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you...
And then I have this wet delay.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip.
And the dry.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for you.
Yeah. And after that, I add some parallel compression. It's just to make the vocal even more compressed and full, I guess. And this one I've sent from here before all of this processing. And I've sent it 100% to the bus, and then I work with volume on the actual bus instead. It's to keep the input into the compressor constant and then just mixing it in a bit. So
this is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your hand.
Just a little bit. Like, we don't really want to hear it, but we want it to contribute to the sound overall. Same with this one. It's a parallel distortion compression bus with a plugin called Develock from Soundtoys, which is really intense. I guess it really destroys, like it says here, the sound, and compresses it on the same time, which is cool.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and you're...
As you hear, it can be really intense.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date.
I like to keep it somewhere here. But then I do the same. I just mix it in a bit here. I've also added a Deesser on this one because distortion can really push up the S's a lot. So I'm just controlling it a bit with a Deesser here. And then I actually put on a limiter on this one that works really hard with a bus, just keeping it basically at the same volume all the time. So it's super, super compressed and even in volume, which can be cool to just add in like a little bit. You see, I've just mixed it like a tiny bit into the mix, but it really does a lot to make the vocal pop and just sound really clear, I guess.
This is what you do when you've been sitting on the date for too long and your head is aching. All you need is gossip for your tongue, so you look right in your honey's eyes. I bet they're sweet too.
So yeah, somewhere around here I like it. And yeah, that's my vocal mix. I've tried to show like the general things that I usually make, and of course it's always different. Like, all voices are different and all songs are different, and everything is a question of personal taste, but this is a way that you can make your vocal really clear and really pop. Okay, so that was it. Thank you for listening, and I hope you got something out of it. And we'll put up a tutorial every Tuesday the entire autumn 2020. So I'll see you next time. Bye.